Greg has muted everyone. I ask you to stay on mute because we are recording this and we'd like to have a clean recording so that we can share some of the highlights, not only via the chat that we're using, but via the recording. And because we are not using slides except for the polling, because I promised no slides. Remember, this is meant to bring you together and to create some interactive dialogue and some exchange via the chat because what we're trying to do is bring some better understanding to light driven by what we've heard from you via our roundtables this quarter, what we've heard from you via our one-to-one, what we do each day with our members, what we've heard from you via our small groups that have been gathering, and what we're going to hear from you as we not only end our Q1 series, but kick off Q2 and launch our AI industry groups as well that are part of our Q2 initiatives. So I can't do that alone. I have to do that, make sure I bring you together, and we do that. And we thought, why not begin this whole Q2 initiative by ending Q1 by bringing Rebecca to us and to our community and talk a little bit about this current environment and a bit about what it's like to sit in this seat. So, Rebecca, I want to begin by throwing some questions at you, and then we're going to throw some questions directly to our finance leaders who've joined us today.
Sounds
Okay?
great. I'm
Sound good?
excited.
All
Yeah.
right. So, just a few hours ago, the Wall Street Journal published an article written by one of their journalists, Justin Lehart. It was titled America's CFOs Say AI is Coming for Admin Jobs. It was based on a new study by the Federal Reserve and Duke, and the study found little evidence of broad job losses from AI, but a clear shift away from clerical roles towards technical ones. And I shared that link to that article in the chat, and we're going to make sure you have a link to it that we're going to provide to you. Greg, I think there we go. Please go back. But Rebecca, there's been all this talk right now about job loss, transformation, and disruption. In fact, CFO Alliance members, I got a phone call from a president and COO who knocked on our door today. Rebecca, you'll love this. She said, I need a consulting fractional CFO. We're a cannabis company expanding our footprint through Florida, getting ready on the horizon because we think that expansion in Texas will come, not in the 2030s, but the 2020s. We're going to need to hire a full-time CFO. And when I asked her about that, hey, prioritization is everything. That CFO role breaks when there's lack of alignment around prioritization. You better be standing up a high-performing finance function. She said to me, you know what? I need this CFO to lead our AI initiative. And I said, that's great. But we all know that this isn't about massive disruption. This is about targeted change, about how finance actually operates. So, my first question for you is when you see CFOs successfully get AI initiatives funded, what does the business case actually look like? What are they proving beyond just efficiency?
Love this question. I mean, efficiency is a very heavy word. There's a lot of meaning in that word. And we think about it simply, it's just saving us time. Now I can go home at 3 o'clock instead of at 8 p.m. And that's not the whole story, though. I mean, you have to take it one step further about what you're doing with the time you saved. So, what are you doing with the resources that you have? How are you reallocating those? So, I think successful business cases aren't just focused on saving time. They actually quantify outcome and they lead with an impact. So, what is the impact that we're looking for as CFOs? I mean, increased liquidity, more cash, more working capital, reducing risk, right? Those are the big ones. And you can have AI tools that improve collections, that reduce bottlenecks, enable more cash visibility, and help you understand your drivers so you can pursue business, gain more market share, get that competitive advantage. Those are really powerful actions that you can take, and that's what you want to make sure you package in that business case to present to gain those funds for your AI initiatives, and that's the biggest impact that you can have for your business, um, and risk reduction as well. So, showing how AI can improve your controls, improve your auditability, can not just save you time, but also as it's let's say the basic story is AI helps you close faster, right? But it's what you do with that time. Since you were able to close faster, now you have more time for scenario analysis. Now you know what risks you're facing in the market, what advantages you might be able to pursue, the drivers for your business. So I think those are the big cases, the successful AI initiatives can focus on.
Well, I think you raised a good point, but I also have a follow-on. It does change the trajectory of the finance function, okay, in and of itself. And so go a bit deeper than just making existing processes a little faster, right? I mean, like, we've seen all these demos where you're like, oh, it eliminated 3 steps,
Yeah,
you
that's
know, like,
basic.
like whoop-de-doo. I saw that a year ago.
Exactly. Yes. It's about taking it one step further. And this isn't something that um, a program or somebody will, give you on a silver platter. You have to think, okay, well, now I have saved time on my close. Now I can import my AP and my invoices faster. What do I do next? And that's where you have to sit and think, what makes sense for my business? What makes sense for the situation that my business is in? And make those decisions of, okay, now are we going to, perform more analysis? Now, what are we going to do with all of this free time? Are we going to pursue a new business venture? Are we going to, try to raise more capital? Like, what's the next part? And it's that action that you take. That's like the point of all of this, right?
Yeah. So, by the way, CFO Alliance members, those of you or those that know are a colleague or friend or members in the cannabis industry space in either a consulting or full-time capacity, send them our way so that we can connect them directly to the president as well as the CEO so that we can connect them to this opportunity. Because to Rebecca's point, when I asked the president that question about, okay, assuming they own the AI initiative for the enterprise, not just the finance function, and assuming they were responsible for standing up the risk and governance principles for the enterprise, as well as the strategy and the application of AI towards the business. I asked her what she believed the impact would be. She said it would accelerate their penetration efforts and growth efforts of the business into additional markets. It would strengthen their ability to be able to identify the next markets and where and who. And also, she believed would potentially impact she knew it would impact their human capital strategy in terms of better understanding capability building in the short, immediate, and longer term.
And there it is. I mean, that's where she's
Yeah.
talking about that competitive advantage, the next step, that pursuing additional markets, expanding, and that's what every business is really after. Not just existing in the space we are now. It's thinking of the future.
Yeah. I also love the fact that she said it would give her a kick in the you know what to also get herself moving in the right direction too, as it relates to her own capability and competency around AI.
Oh, that's motivation for sure.
All right, let's go to our first polling question. Can we? Everybody, please participate. I know this seems very basic, but we're trying to update our data. Where is your finance organization today? in adopting AI and advanced automation. I don't know why we have a 2 and a 3 there in terms of questions, Greg. So let's look at just that question at the top. No plans. Oh God, I hope nobody hits no plans.
Really hope so.
I also hope we don't see no current use but evaluating. Let's look at 3, 4, and 5. But you are, please be honest, no current use. Limited automation in workflows, AP, close, and reporting. Using AI for forecasting, analytics, and decision support. And then the last one is scaling AI across multiple finance processes.
I think this will be exciting to see. I don't
Yeah,
mind so much the no current use, but evaluating them. I mean, you're cautious, you're
yeah,
taking steps, like
yeah,
let's think about it logically, but hopefully
yeah,
soon somebody starts implementing.
yeah. Greg, you have to control that. You got to give us a countdown.
Yeah, closing in 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
All right. So, okay, we're seeing progress. Limited automation in workflows was almost 60%. Using AI for forecasting, analytics, support. Well, I don't know how we can have that there. How do we have that many, Greg? Your math.
Oh, I see.
You can
Greg,
choose more than one.
you could choose more than one. You shouldn't have been able to do that, Greg.
Exciting.
All right, Greg.
It could be in different places.
Well, look, I do like to see if maybe, you know what, Rebecca, would you mind? Can somebody come off? Was somebody willing to come off mute? Maybe to talk. Can we take one off around the using AI for forecasting, analytics, and decision support, maybe?
I'd love to hear more
Um,
about that.
I'd love to hear someone comment there. Somebody willing to come off mute and share what they're doing. And more importantly, not just share what they're doing, just give us, are you where you'd want to be in terms of that evolution? And if you could play Monday morning quarterback, what would you do differently as to where you are? Anybody willing to come off?
Nick, we have
And
some
somebody
responses
using
in the
it.
chat.
What?
There's some good responses in the chat. Michael B had called out that he's using Claude to do variance analysis, cash flow forecast, and trend analysis. It isn't perfect, but it's close. And he wants finance to use it with codes to build tools and solutions. And then Pavan is, I'm a Codex and Cowork Power user in Houston. So he was happy to
Yeah.
connect. Maybe you guys want to chime in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might be curious about Michael, was it?
Yes, Michael was the first one using Claude, and Barry actually just responded and said that he's using something similar.
Very amazing. I mean, what are the next steps though? Does Barry or Michael, do you guys have next steps planned now that you've been able to save time and been able to generate these reports and forecasts faster?
Well, it's Michael here. And for me, it's actually going to Cloud Code and building out a platform. Don't use data rails. Don't use others. Build my own specialized because I don't need anyone else. You don't need engineers anymore to do this. So you can do it yourself. Just get used to it and make sure you're underneath the daily usage.
Yeah, it's a lot more accessible now for sure.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, my organization is very AI first, or at least forward, and we're evaluating everything. Everything's on the table. I think with the Claude Code, I haven't used Claude Code, but I'm dabbling with some other tools. We have to be very careful, and when I say we, I mean organizations across the board. Does it make sense to build it yourself? What's the risk of building it yourself?
Yes.
If the person who built it goes away, can someone in the organization maintain it? Assuming that it's mission critical. If not, then great. But there's still that, and Nick, we've talked about this for years, the build, borrow versus buy. And we talked
Yes.
about the fourth B,
Yes.
the bot, which is here. And that's kind of what we're evaluating and prioritizing in our organization.
I
Barry, I'm
would
so
love to
glad
make
you.
a comment
Go ahead. Yeah.
because it's now dissimilar to what we've done in the past. Your accounting manager went away and your controller went away.
Yes.
So this is just a new way of thinking. And if you don't share that across the continuum of the finance team and they don't all do it. It's like knowing your business. You got to know your AI too. So you got to get in there, use it. Everyone uses it, knows how to use, so that if someone leaves, you could just pick it up. And honestly, the good thing is someone leaves, all that information is already in Claude or in wherever you're using it. So there shouldn't be any downtime.
It's a good point.
Great point. And I knew Rebecca was leading it there because Rebecca and I were talking offline about do not ignore behavior change and the investment you need to make to focus on that. We're back to this again about this becoming part of behavior change and culture change as well.
Oh,
This
yeah.
has to change the how we work. And the how we is a we equation, not an individual equation.
Oh,
To
yeah.
Barry's point, to Michael's point, correct?
Agreed. It's not just about speeding up one task and just having like a new instructions for how to complete the work. It's about fundamentally changing how the work that we're completing and the workflows like right at the base. I mean, accountants aren't about and finance isn't about just doing math, basic math. That's not what we do, right? We love organization. We love structure. And what this is kind of forcing us to do is change the structure that we had in place, because there are new tools that can help us perform more and complete more work. So it's really this fundamental change that we're, undergoing, and it started, a few years ago, but now it's really ramping up, and it's a whole different ballgame now.
Becca, we have Dr. Natty, and then I have Aaron Wilkins who want to talk with you too. So let's go
right.
Natty first and then Wilkins.
Hey, I just wanted to push back a little bit on on there should be no downtime. I think that that's an incorrect assessment. If you are putting something together inside AI and trying to build out these processes within AI, if someone were to leave and has that institutional knowledge of what they put together, how they coded it, what have you, it's not just a plug and play. No one can just sit down and just kind of put themselves in the position of that former controller or former CFO, whoever created that workflow. So there is going to be some learning curve there. I don't want anybody to walk away from this thinking like, oh, I just make AI tools and then all of a sudden, lickety split, we're good to go. I can go on vacation. I don't think it's that simple. Maybe that's me being a naysayer, which I'm never a naysayer on this stuff. But also, I don't want to make it seem like this is just the easy button, and all of a sudden, this is going to solve all of our problems.
Oh, yeah. I think on the creation side, I agree with you there. For the users, though, the users will be able to just pick up and continue if the users change over. But if the person who created it does switch over, then there should be documentation and things put into place so that the changeover does go smooth. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think Tim, Michael was saying there should not be a single point of failure. Multiple people should be involved in the creation. And he said that there in the chat, right? I think that was a qualifier. Aaron, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think we just also need to be thinking about like how we're being flexible and adaptable to what else is being built outside of what we can control, right? Claude just released like skills recently, the past couple of weeks, and so you know, I'm going to take a meet in the middle approach here, right? Of course, there's gonna always be some downtime, right? To Tim's point, but the way in which we scale these things now across the organization using things like creating our own skills for something that we've built internally and scaling that across the finance function just became so much easier than it was 2-3 weeks ago, right? So I think we have to understand that OpenAI and Anthropic are going to continue to build these tools in a way that is conducive to us not having to have the conversation about what and how, but when.
Love that.
When should we be ready for that? And how, and then what are you doing as a leader to experiment with those things and to standardize as much as you possibly can, and then roll those things out as fast as possible across the organization.
Yeah.
That's a perfect segue, Rebecca, to the polling question too, because I want your comment when we throw this out. The when question. Polling question two. How integrated are your core finance and operational systems today? Now this one, Greg, please tell me you have this set up for a single choice.
It is, yeah. Single choice.
Okay. I don't need to read these. These are pretty self-explanatory.
I'm hoping that there's a lot of integration here.
Nick, while we're going through this question, did you see Paven's comment in the chat where he comes from the product management side and got pulled into finance because of his background in AI, which we're starting to see more and more of a trend in.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Cross-functional roles.
Yep. All right. Everybody get their chance here.
All right. Anybody else want to participate? Closing in 3, 2, 1. Dead heat.
All right.
All right. So Rebecca, look, let's face it, we're playing catch up, a lot of us. ERP's for many still a system of record, not a system for decisions. What's the shift required to turn it into something more strategic? We still have this kind of, you know, work in progress here.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people might think that, ERP is, right, just the system of record. And I have a really good analogy. If you'll walk with me here and follow me, it's almost like the businesses that use ERP just as a system of record. It's like you have a big box available in your office and you use it to reach a high shelf. So you just step on the box and you reach up and it's great. It takes you up that 1 extra foot that you need to expand your reach, right? But then if you start using ERP as this system for decisions and a partner in your decision making, it's almost like somebody gives you the key to the box. And now you can unlock the box. And oh my gosh, inside are, 5-foot ladders, 7-foot ladders, 10-foot ladders, and you can just reach so much higher. And all you needed was that key. You just needed to open the box, right? You're using it, and maybe you access your ERP and all of the records just for, to build a report, to file your tax return, to answer a question once in a while, right? That's not useful. That's not the correct use for it, right? It can do so much more for you. So unlocking that box, there's embedded analytics now, right? And AI, natural language access. That's, even more that you can do with all that you have with your data. So ERP brings together your operational, your customer insights, your financial information, all of that together builds context, right? And that is almost like a treasure chest full of jewels. And so many analogies here, but I can't describe it any better. All of that information together is how you can figure out what's driving your business, those drivers, and you're not just reporting outcomes, and you can spot churn risk, and you can see far ahead. You can assess, your risk and your exposure, and you can find out, how to bring in some more liquidity and have that cash impact. And then if you take the analytics and natural language, where it's just more accessible, as we said earlier in the questions, you can ask questions directly. Users that don't have that deep technical knowledge, you don't need it anymore. Everybody has the key, and you can unlock, the box. You can unlock the ERP and partner with it for decision making all the time. It's extremely useful, and knowing that is available to you is amazing. It's so powerful for you, right? And even personalization, when you're talking about, of course, we have controls and role-based access, and if you feed that relevant information, relevant to your role even more, it's focused, right? You're not just, searching blindly to figure out, to look for something. You actually can receive information that helps you function better and helps you take action. That's what it is. It's about partnering with this powerful tool. And yeah, it's already there, is my point.
So I had this debate with this president, because she threw the term out to me, and I'm curious, my CFOs and you too, Rebecca. She couldn't give me an example of okay. So she threw this term integrated forecasting at me. And I said, could you give me an example of what integrated forecasting would look like in practice in your business? And she froze. And I said, okay, I'm going to ask this differently. Can you tell me where you think this would break down in the connection between operations and finance? Because if one of the priorities is to stand up a high-performing finance function led by the CFO, one of the things we want to mitigate is this person's ability to stand up the finance function the right way so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
How would integrated forecasting fall apart or not be stood up correctly in this day and age, given the advancements of AI and in ERP or AI in technology right now?
Well, I mean, we're only as good as your data, right? So if you don't have the right information available, if the data is locked, siloed, almost like in different systems, in different databases, and your ERP doesn't have full access, your AI isn't looking at the full picture, it doesn't have that context of operational and financial data together, that's exactly where it's going to break down, because you need to blend that financial data with your operational drivers, right? With your sales volume, with pipeline, with churn, if that affects, supply constraints as well. Like all of these factors are critical, and that's the operational side. And you have to pull that together with the numbers to get, not just a static forecast, right? You want it integrated. So as these things are occurring, it's rebalancing and giving you, the most current view, the most accurate view of what's to come. And integrated is almost like constantly refreshed, right? And that's what gives you that forecast that you're looking for, not just a one-time static. I ran it and now I have to run it again next week or next month. And you don't want to be too late to the game. You're not sitting there saying, "Oh, now I have a big, economic event that, oh, now I need to do my forecast." That's too late. You have to, start thinking about that earlier and have that already in your plan. And that's what the benefit of, having that integration as well and having all of the data accessible always, that real-time view.
So you're only as good as the data you rely upon. So let's throw a polling question in there. Let's go back to the accounting data, and because we've been talking finance. So how long does your monthly financial close currently take? Let's go back there.
I love this question.
Moment of truth here. No one can see who gave what answer.
We have a lot of teams still trying to move toward a near real-time or automated close.
That's exciting. I love that pursuit.
Or continuous close, yeah.
Oh, I'd love to speak if
I mean,
anybody.
we've got a lot of companies that have meaningfully shortened the close,
That's exciting.
which we can celebrate.
Every day you slice off your clothes is a celebration.
All right, we could use a couple more data points if someone wants to answer. Next 5 seconds.
All right.
Okay.
This looks
You got
great.
3 to 5 and 6 to 10. Not bad. So let's go back to for the teams trying to move toward like near real time or autonomous close, what things should they actually change first? How about the ones not there yet? What should they change first? Process, data, or behavior?
Those are good. I like
You can't say all the above.
Yes, if that's an option, I'll take it.
I'm known for throwing the tough question: process, data, or behavior.
Okay. I like the order that you listed it in: process, data, and then behavior, because as we mentioned, right, we're talking about a fundamental shift in how we approach our work, right? So if we think about it, let's say 40, 50 years ago, we used to use green ledger paper and, look at the information there to pull together. And then we started using Excel and there was more computer software available. And that was a shift from very manual work to a little bit more automation. And now we're in this shift again from from software to artificial intelligence, where you're really kind of taking even less, there's even less hands-on work that you have to do. So it's almost like a hands-off approach. So the process first is a good way to look at it, because that's what needs to fundamentally change and be structured first.
You got to debate, Rebecca, because Barry went good data drives better, faster process, which drives behavior change.
That is my next point. You're fast. Okay. Yeah, no. So I do think that process first, you have to fundamentally rethink it, but then to actually take advantage of that new process, like you need to have the right data in place. You have to have it clean, you have to have it modernized, you have to have it standardized, and it needs to be accessible. So using the same old data structure that you had before with your new processes, with your new workflows doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
And then even still, like you can't have the same, and to bring in behavior into it, you can't keep the same old attitude you had there before, right? Everything is changing and is new, and you have to have the approach of, okay, I'm willing to take this on. I'm excited for it, right? We're excited to change the old processes to the new processes and standardize our data. And it's really like that's the trifecta, having all three in place at the same time. So, I mean, those are great points to make, but.
Is there something that the teams stop doing that most teams are still holding on to, or start doing that most teams aren't doing? Can you point to anything that just sounds like routine now that wasn't routine before, or isn't routine anymore?
Absolutely. So I think we've stopped waiting for the end, right? There's no like kickoff and then we start the work and then we finish the work, or there really shouldn't be any more. This should be a continuous process. We just mentioned continuous accounting. So waiting for the end to start reviewing our work, to finalize our work, to begin the close, it doesn't serve us. Now, a tool that I love that we use is exception management, where it raises and surfaces anomalies and exceptions throughout the close throughout the month, let's say, as they happen, as they occur, and not waiting for the end of the month to all of a sudden get that surprise, that fire drill of transactions that are missing, of incorrect transactions, right? Spreading that throughout the month. And similar with all of our work and all of our AP and AR close processes and our accounting entries as well. Spreading the burden throughout the month and not waiting until the end, those last few days to start. I mean, if people here are familiar with a Gantt chart where you can visualize, right, a process and the steps that it takes to get to the end, and all the parties involved, if you can do that for your close and have this clear visual of all the steps it takes, this is what happens on day 1 to 15, this is what happens on day 15 to 20, 21, 22, 23, right, throughout the whole month. And if you see that your close extends too far past the end of the month, well, start assessing what steps you can take and what processes you can move to the front end, and replace from the end of the month, and you can bring it to the front of the month, and that way you have a cleaner close process. And that's what I think companies are not waiting for the end anymore. And that's hugely powerful. I think it even makes it just more comfortable. I would hate waiting until the end of the month when I worked in in the controller's organization to start. Like doesn't make sense.
So I want to touch on, hey, Ro, do you want to come off mute? Because you said you wanted to go a little bit deeper into my president, who was asking about integrated forecasting. What did you want to go deeper on?
When Rebecca made mention, specifically for you, President, she's talking about a business which in a lot of ways encompasses an agri component, which is not part and parcel to what most people deal with on a day-to-day basis. And that agricultural component is where I'm almost certain she's having issues in terms of having integrated forecasting, because the signal that she gets from that space is very disjointed. She's also leveraging a conversation about a retail situation, which is different state by state. So it's very difficult for her to have any sense of continuity within a context. And right now, within that space, there is not a best in class, because everyone is trying to figure it out as they go along. But she's really telling her that it's a critical pain point for her. It's tying up a lot of cash for her. It's tying up. She has no good signal that she can actually rely on, even if she's running a subscription-based business. And I think Rebecca talked about churn. None of that really matters if the signal that she's getting from the agri portion of her business is not lining up with the signal she's getting from her retail component or her D2C component. So when we talk about integrated forecasting, I think it's, at least in my experience, it's better to look at it from where you're getting your demand signal and sort of working backwards. And it also ties to the whole conversation around the close. I know people talk about, I've seen everyone saying it's process, it's behavior, it has to be the behavior. I think the behavior that you want it to be needs to be where you begin first, because if you begin with the end in mind, then you can create processes that models the right behaviors. And then if you have the right processes that models the right behaviors, it then allows you to make sure you address data, which quite frankly is going to be an iterative process. Everyone will be able to tell you that if you start with data or process, your data is never going to be as good as you want it to be. But your behaviors you have a lot more control over, and your processes you have control over, which then gets you to data. So at least my view is that it's the behaviors that you start with first. You model the processes to match the behavior you want to end at, and then you work on the data as an iterative process over time.
I love that. I fully agree there.
Yeah, excellent. I know how I'll be putting her in touch with Ro. See me.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. No, and it also goes to this talent compliance and data integrity piece, because the conversation I also had with her is so much of the conversation was around the opportunity side of the equation. This president joined the firm based on a Korn Ferry search. It is it's a true company that is coming out of a massive financial turnaround. And, she had to do her own personal financial analysis with all of the ugliness of that financial turnaround, and said, I'm more than willing to peel back the curtain and explain why I made the decision, knowing the risk coming in. And on the one hand, she's looking for a culture king or queen to step in with her. And on the other hand, she said, I'm looking for the person that will bring the integrity and the compliance side of the equation as well. Isn't that such a unique challenge, Rebecca? Going back to, the opportunity side of this equation, and why this skill set of the capability that we're looking for, not only in the CFO seat, but the build out of the finance and accounting function, goes back to a really unique skill set, and also how they spend their time and deploy that capability now in this day and age, given the advancements and the changes in the way the work gets done. It's different than it was. It's not processing. Going back to that Wall Street Journal article,
Yes.
We're modernizing the function
Essentially,
in a way.
completely agreed. I mean, it's not about deep finance technical expertise anymore. You need that expertise, and you need the analytics piece of it, the business intelligence side of it, the AI component, and you have to, deep love for finance and numbers will get you far. But if you have a deep love for finance and you have a deep love for automation, well, there you go. That's even better. That's what takes you to the next step.
Hey, Paul. Good.
Oh, Gail, you're not on mute. Let's make sure we mute that. Can you mute that, Greg, please? Okay, let's go back to polling question 4, please. Oh, okay, perfect. I just used that term. What's the biggest obstacle to modernizing your finance function right now? This is a single choice one as well. So you really read these before you pick one.
Mhm.
Budget constraint, legacy systems, lack of integration, data quality, visibility issues. limited staff bandwidth, change management, user adoption, governance, risk, compliance concerns. This is a tough one, so put a
Yeah.
little thought.
All of these are very valid.
Yeah, but you have to pick biggest. And if you're in a fractional or consulting capacity, pick one that's you're most excited about or spending the most time on or has the biggest issue. This will also become part of what we're going to kind of dive into all of these, by the way, in a mini version that will come into CFO Commons, maybe a kind of version. How do we work through these issues? Kind of like a Project Greenlight report. We want to work through these obstacles.
That's going to be an interesting read and
Yeah.
listen.
We are missing one though, missing lack of skills or misaligned skill set. I was curious as to why that wasn't added.
Okay. Yeah.
Agreed. Upskilling is the huge one right now.
That is.
And Ro answered, how about fear? By the way, Ro, you're spot on because that president that I mentioned said that was the #1 factor as to why that's not the AI engine is not turned on in this cannabis company right now is fear. And why is she not turning it on? What a dangerous thing to turn on if fear is the issue. Because
It's the unspoken elephant in the room, quite frankly.
Yes, fear, and it is about risk management. You're actually right. I mean, she said, you imagine I turn it on right now with fear as the factor? We're going to have a huge issue around compliance because people will just start trying nothing or anything. Right.
Very true.
All right, Rebecca, let's look at these answers. Knowing we missed a big one around skill,
Oh yeah.
which probably would have been the biggest. So these are probably 2, 3, 4, 5. Limited staff and bandwidth kind of goes to skill. Yeah.
Yeah. The time to learn.
Change management and legacy system lack of integration there. It's crazy. Barry says crazy that budget constraints didn't get a single hit. That wouldn't have been the case in prior years, Barry. You're right. We would have said, nah, low on the totem pole. I got other stuff they got to pay for.
Everybody's
Not the case
aligned
now.
and interested in the investment in AI, and that's good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, but only if everything's aligned or lined up correctly.
Right, and it's been
going back to our
appropriately
original. These are all things we can all deal with if we but deal with the right way. So let's take the toughest one on here. Which one is the most difficult, or which one is going to be? For you, Rebecca. Which one is like the big stop sign that you think gets overlooked?
I think I connect very much with the limited staff bandwidth. I feel like there's always this pressure, not enough time for everything in, the short 24 hours that we all have in the day. And I think a lot goes into that because if you're looking to assess your risk, well, you need time to sit down and think about that. And you can't do that if you're stuck, in a close or performing a different task. And I think a lot of adopting AI is, clearing your calendar a little bit just to be able to plan it out carefully and plan it out correctly. So that's my favorite. I think that's also like always the challenge that I have faced the most. But I know some people connected with that as well. So.
I think you compare that or combine that limited staff bandwidth with the change management and user adoption, and then you've really got an issue, right? Because it's a part of both.
Yeah. And that rolls into it. Aaron has a question.
No, I was just going to add to that. I think you can combine it with what we're saying in the chat, right? Fear, like behavior, culture. Like, I mean, it's all tied to that. It's all behavior-based activities, right? Clearing your calendar is a behavioral issue.
Yeah. No, yeah. I see that completely.
I do think Anand Shah has a point because I've talked to countless CFO Alliance members who are on the other side of the spectrum of, do I really need to do it right this second? It's the other phenomena with the speed of rollout of fast a fast follower releasing new products, you've got this phenomena of, is this something I need to do right this second?
I mean, that's a fair question. I think that is a
Yeah.
fair question, but it's different from before, whereas, oh, I could take a little bit more time to assess which software is right, right? Now things are rolling out, as you mentioned, at, the speed is, I mean, I've never seen speed like this before, rolling out new features every month, and the next month is something else brand new. And if you don't start now, I'm not saying, adopt it and just hit the ground running, but if you don't start looking into it now, the gap is going to be wider than you expect to be able to catch up.
Agree. So, Rebecca, one of the things we're doing, I want your opinion on two things. We're opening up our CFO Commons Hub for play, which is like some of the things that people are doing, they're willing to show, which is for the common group. Based upon the various tools people are using, they're going to show. Here's how I do, here's how I did. Okay. And here's what I'm doing that seems to be working and not. And we're going to ask everyone to do that. But we're also creating industry groups where people knowing that some of the tools and the application and use of those tools, much like right ERP and use of and the like, are applied differently based on the businesses that they're applying them to.
That's very powerful.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, comment there too. Is it easier for some and harder for others, or and what are your thoughts on that in terms of vertical?
For adopting AI, you're saying? I mean,
Yeah.
some industries can find use cases very easily and can apply AI everywhere, right? Some industries might, have a little lighter approach. But I think if we're talking finance, that's essentially horizontal. Everybody has a finance function.
Sure.
So if you're thinking finance, AI tools, I mean, there are so many. Okay. If you think industry, I mean, retail, if you have that dynamic forecasting to forecast supply, to order, from your suppliers right away, to restock, right in time and have all of that, hands-free, that's one use. If you're talking manufacturing, similar with suppliers and bringing in materials. But if I met with, I think it was a revenue officer at Sweet World at our conference one year, and he had an amazing use case of AI agents for the finance function for first call resolution when there was an exception, when the invoice wasn't right and they couldn't pay on time, and now DSO is at 72 days, and bringing AI and bringing that agent in and setting it up, which he did in two companies because he switched companies in between. It was so powerful. Slash your DSO in half. I mean, any industry benefits from that, right? Bring cash in quickly. That's what we got to do. So yeah, industries have specific use cases. I'm so sorry. Industries have specific use cases, but horizontally across the board, there's plenty to work with.
Awesome. Awesome. So we're only as good as the information that we share, but we're also only as good as sharing them some of the things that worked and that didn't work as well. And if we can avoid some of the pitfalls. So I'm hoping that what we can do is create some opportunity for and routine to some of this. Rebecca, if you could ask one question of this group that's on your mind, what would that question be? And like what should people here leave with as well? So I'm going to ask you those two questions as we kind of finish out.
Question to leave with is, what are you doing next? Like with the time savings, with the dollar savings, where's the impact, right? Can you quantify that? Can you illustrate that? That's my question.
Okay. And then what is the best way for people to connect with you and the team as it relates to product and what you're doing to continue to enhance the AI capabilities there at Oracle NetSuite?
I'm very available on LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to reach me there, feel
And
free to
what
reach
gets
out.
your attention? Because you probably get a lot of connection requests. What would get your attention?
Okay. Do you remember if you, let's say, might date myself, but those email changed, I would say you'll get 7 years of bad luck if you don't forward this email, right? But the opposite, okay? Tell me that I'll get 7 years of good luck if I read your message and if we connect, and I would be so happy to.
All right, awesome. I love that. I love that. We have a couple minutes remaining. Is there anything anybody wants to pose to the group before I give you a few minutes back? Here's a question. Are people worried that we implement AI across our orgs, cut staff, and then the AI providers massively increase prices?
I think that's a general concern, but as we see, and as you just posted that article, like that's not what's happening in practice. It was a general
It's not.
fear. Yes, you could see the possibility, but in practice, that's not where it's going. And I think that conversations are really people are realizing, okay, well, we're partners in this now. How do we work together? How do we make it work for us? And that's where the conversation is shifting to. As opposed to just, I'm too scared to touch it, or I'm too scared it's going to take my job.
Especially in the mid-market space. In
Yeah.
fact, we're seeing an increased opportunity in the mid-market space.
Yeah. Diving in, being interested in it, pursuing it, being an AI champion, that's security.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, let me set the stage about what's coming. We will be kicking off the Q2 series around these topics around tech. And it's a lot of fun questions to be posed, really practical, interactive. We hit the road on April 21st. We have our final Q1 roundtable on Thursday in Denver. So we end in Denver and then have a couple of weeks to enjoy a little bit of spring break. And then we're back at it in 21 markets around the US. And then we end Q2 in Tampa at our annual IMA26 CFO Alliance experience. Gathering there, we have our global advisory board meeting, plus an amazing offsite at the oldest still running cigar rolling factory, family owned and operated, a Cuban experience with food and music and real cigar rolling. June 14th to the 17th. Our sessions will be led by CFO Alliance members. A few hundred of us of CFO Alliance members will be gathered along with about 400 additional accounting and finance professionals at all levels. And then I mentioned our AI Hub, a place to meet and gather beginning next Tuesday, a week from today. I love that. Come roll with Nick is our tagline for that event in Tampa. I love that. Thank you, Barrett. But this is your place. I hope you see this. No noise. Come as you are. We'll meet you where you are. We have so many members that we can pair you up. 1-to-1, 1 to cohort group, 1 to many, based on your affinity as it relates to this topic around AI. Compliance orientation, practical use case orientation, industry group orientation, job and opportunity now orientation. Sam and the team are here to make those connections that count. Rebecca and her team at Oracle NetSuite and our other technology partners are here to make connections. We will see you online. Connect with Rebecca via LinkedIn. And more importantly, I look forward to continue to make connections that count. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes of your life back, and continue to stay well, stay safe, and stay connected. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.